All right, let's dive into a topic that honestly we've all seen, and maybe some of us have even lived through. But what is bullying really? Especially for those of you who are going to be working with kids and teens, whether you're going into education, psychology, social work, you name it. Truly getting a handle on the landscape of bullying is absolutely essential. So, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down from what it is to how we can stop it. Here's the game plan. We'll start with the absolute basics. Then we'll get into the different ways bullying shows up. After that, we'll look at how it actually changes as kids grow up. And finally, we'll talk about what we can actually do about it. Let's get right to it. Okay, first things first. What exactly is bullying? Now, I know it's a word we throw around all the time, but in the academic and clinical worlds, it has a super specific definition. So let's lock that down. So here's the deal. This is so critical. Not every mean thing someone does is technically bullying. It's got to have these three ingredients. First, the harm is intentional. It's on purpose, not some accident. Second, it's a repeated pattern. It's not a one-off argument. And third, and this is the big one, there's a power imbalance. The person being targeted feels like they can't make it stop. This three-part definition is really the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. Okay, so now that we've got the what, let's explore the how. Bullying shows up in a few different ways. And you know what? It's not always as obvious as you might think. This table lays out the whole spectrum so well. You've got your physical and verbal stuff, which is pretty easy to spot, right? But then you have relational bullying. This is the invisible stuff, spreading rumors, intentionally leaving someone out. It's all about damaging friendships and social status. And honestly, the psychological damage can be just as bad, if not worse. And then, of course, there's cyberbullying, which can feel totally inescapable in today's world. For anyone who's going to work with kids, you have to be able to spot all of these forms. Now, here's where it gets fascinating. Bullying is not a one-size-fits-all problem. What bullying looks like for a 5-year-old is worlds away from what a 15-year-old is doing. Understanding this evolution is absolutely key if you want to create interventions that actually work. You can just see the path here, can't you? It starts out really physical and impulsive with preschoolers who are, still figuring out self-control. Then, by middle school, it gets more strategic. Social exclusion becomes this really powerful weapon. And by the time they're teens, it gets even more complicated and hidden, and that's when cyberbullying really explodes onto the scene. So, the million-dollar question, what actually causes a young person to bully someone else? Well, there's no simple answer. It's never just one thing. It's more like this complex web of risk factors, at home, with their friends, at school, and inside themselves. For kids who bully, it's often like a perfect storm of these factors. So, picture a kid who might already have an aggressive temperament. Maybe they're also seeing some pretty harsh stuff at home. Then they fall in with a group of friends where being dominant is cool, and the school doesn't really have a strong system to stop it. You see how that aggression can get channeled in a really destructive way. And on the flip side, for those who get targeted, it's a similar story of compounding risk factors. A kid who is seen as different in some way might be more vulnerable to begin with. And that vulnerability just gets magnified if they don't have a strong support system, like close friends or a stable family, and if the school environment makes them feel like they can't speak up. Okay, this brings us to the real heart of it, the so what. Why does this matter so much? Because the impact of bullying is not just some fleeting childhood memory. No way. It is severe, and it can leave permanent scars on absolutely everyone involved. Just look at these two paths. In the short term, a victim might get anxious, their grades might drop, but long term, we're talking chronic mental health issues. And for the kids who bully, those early detentions and suspensions can actually escalate. They're at a higher risk for criminal behavior and just general instability in their adult lives. This is so much more than kids being kids. These are life-altering events. So, knowing the problem, knowing how devastating it can be, how do we actually build the solution? Well, the research is crystal clear on this. Just reacting to problems as they pop up is not enough. We have to build a whole culture of safety from the ground up. Let's look at how. The only way this works is with an all-hands-on-deck approach. You can't just do one of these things and expect results. It has to start with clear policies for the entire school. It has to be built right into the curriculum, teaching kids empathy and conflict resolution. It has to include one-on-one support for those who need it. And it has to be backed up by parents and the whole community. Every single layer has to work in sync. And that right there is the big question for all of us.
As you get ready to become the next generation of teachers, therapists, and community leaders, the real challenge isn't just about stopping bullying when you see it. It's about how you can build the kinds of supportive, safe, and resilient environments where bullying has a really hard time taking root in the first place.